Hello and welcome to the EduTalk series hosted by Biotone EduPartner School Program and massage industry experts. With the continued interest and popularity of the EduTalk series, Biotone continues to support virtual learning and building massage community by connecting you with industry experts who share their knowledge and expertise on topics not only for class discussion, but career success. Today's expert is Michael Morgan, renowned for his application of Upledger CranioSacral Therapy in the elevation, treatment, and support of the adult population suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Michael's clinical experience has paved the way for cutting-edge solutions, merging bodywork into the field of dementia and Alzheimer's treatment. Let's listen and learn as Michael discusses craniosacral therapy, aging, and longevity, discussing how aging and longevity are being redefined and how emerging research, AI, biomarker testing, and craniosacral therapy offer new hope in preventing cognitive decline. He'll explore rethinking memory, aging, and quality of life through advanced tools, manual therapy, and proactive science-driven approaches. I'd like to mention Michael has been a previous EduTalk presenter, presenting on craniosacral therapy approaches for Alzheimer's and dementia. That can be listened to in the archive library on biotone.com under the EduTalk tab, and the date was June 2024. You can find it again on biotone.com under the EduTalk tab in the archive library. Again, thank you for joining us. And I know, Michael, you have a lot to get to, so let me exit the screen and turn it over to you, and I'll come back to help you with chats. So it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Danelle. Thank you. And thanks to Biotone and for sponsoring this EduTalk series. Very exciting to present this to so many eager listeners. So I'm really, really happy to be here today. Thank you. What I'm going to do is basically tune into my slideshow. So give me just a moment here while I go to my slides and get that set up for you here. Just a slight little pause. And one other little click. I think we're there. So now you can tell me if we're okay there as well. So as Danelle said, really the title of this talk is Revisiting How We Think About Longevity. And as Danelle mentioned, in the last years, I've spoken about Alzheimer's dementia. And as really part of looking at with the Upledger Institute, the curriculum, longevity curriculum, we're looking really at the whole span of longevity, from being well and healthy to when things start to go a little awry. So it's really a continuum of wellness that we're talking about. And I wanted to give you a little more of an expanded perspective on that today in this talk. And so the way I put it is revisiting how we think about aging and longevity, because there is a sea change in the way the public, as well as science and scientific paradigm is starting to look at all this. So the next 20 years, how that will help redefine how we think about memory, cognition, and quality of life as we age. And go to my next slide here. Aging and longevity are really being redefined. As we said in the intro, emerging research, artificial intelligence, biomarker testing, and craniosacral therapy offer new hope for preventive cognitive decline, even in a way that I wasn't even aware of, or many people weren't aware of in this field even 12 months ago. So there's a sea change in the way that with all the tools we have and emerging and a momentum that we're defining, this is after 15 or 20 years of being at this, that things are shifting. So that's very exciting to touch on these points. Um, we're going to explore how therapists, as yourself, and the public can rethink memory, aging, and the quality of life through advanced tools, manual therapy, and a proactive, scientific, science-driven approach. And in talking about this paradigm of aging, I've also been a presenter at the American Aging Institute, and they have spoken a lot, or American Society of Aging, about even how we think about aging. Even the word aging has a certain connotation, but when you replace longevity with aging, it has a completely different context in a sense. And what I wanted to share with you is some difference in the way we think about aging, especially in this generation and how things are shifting. So I'm going to go through a few slides just to kind of compare and contrast these public attitudes and perception. And I kind of term this as the old model, if you will, and the new model, the way we think about aging. So the old model, when we think about aging, is that we get more frail, vulnerable, and disease prone as we age. And aging is a downhill process. I think, anyone that lives in Florida, knows there's a lot of elder people, and you can listen to how they think about it. There's various attitudes. And one of the conventions is that, which has been, is those with memory problems should be medicated. Those with memory problems should be institutionalized. Those with memory problems should be isolated. And the older population should live on their own communities, such as over 55 communities apart from the general society. Now, the new model would say something a little different. They would say that aging is not the focus, longevity is. And quality of life is really possible as we age. And the new model says we can extend human lifespan and compress any disease processes or diminishment into the last few months of life. Another thought that I've been talking about for some amount of time is Alzheimer's is preventable. Even more so, in certain situations, we could reverse the effect of Alzheimer's disease. And we can slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease and possibly stop its progression. And people prefer to age in place. That's something in surveys. Overall, aging in place as a term has become quite popular. People don't necessarily want to go to an institution or nursing home, if you will, but age in place if they could. Another slide on that too is that in the old model, retirement, and part of this is driven by the demographics of the last few decades, is that retirement is strongly expected, suggested, or encouraged. In the 1950s, 50% of the workforce, continued on. In the 1990s, it was 14%. The old model is we celebrate the youth culture. Aging population should be protected but have little or nothing to contribute. Aging population should be protected but have little or nothing to contribute. Well, I guess it's so important I repeated it twice, sorry. And younger populations need to figure things out for themselves. Now, the new model is that older Americans can be included in the culture. Inclusiveness can include those of older age as well as gender and other identifications. Senior care can be strength-based, and compassion can be included in the healthcare system. Older Americans and seniors worldwide can be a source of wisdom and guidance, and seniors are seen as a resource for the younger generation. And there are resources to keep us healthy as we age so we can care for those we love without fear and concern. Just one more page on this. And that is, sorry, go to my next slide here. The old model is, the concern is if I get sick, who will take care of my loved ones? If I have someone in assisted living or memory care, will anyone listen to my requests or concerns? How can I communicate with them? How do I plan the economics of aging and memory challenges? Accumulated lifetime wealth and savings are spent in the last 1 to 2 years of life. There is no known cure for Alzheimer's and it is not preventable. And senior care is based on the traditional medical model. The new model says we can develop resources financially so we can enjoy our extended lifespans and not sacrifice quality of life. And we can develop resources for the care economy, as it said, so those who choose can age in place or age in a community where they're lived. And finally, a robust program for disease prevention, including Alzheimer's, is available for all the population. And I'm sure as I've read those, that probably resonates with more than a few people. You've seen these and you've seen the dichotomy and the differences in thinking about this. Now, what are some of the things that are fueling this change on a biochemical level, not just in terms of attitudinal, but in terms of what is there to say in the biochemistry of aging? We have learned something new that can make a difference with this. So this is the science part of this, and this is advancing and emerging science as we go along. So there's something called the hallmarks of aging. And this was an overview. Let me go back one slide in case I missed something here. Okay, good. Um, and let me go to one other slide here. Sorry. All right, I'm going back. So this is a bit of an overview here. What are the hallmarks of aging? They were published in Cell magazine in 2013 as a study that was first done on the hallmarks of cancer in the early 2000s. And they looked at the commonality of what, actually fueled cancer as a diagnosis. Then another group of researchers started to look at what are the commonalities of aging. And that has revolutionized and will continue to revolutionize the way we think about aging. It's something I'm starting to include in our curriculum as well. But the question is, why are they important? How can we get access? How does this fit into the increasing toolbox of tests and evaluations at our fingertips? How does this impact prevention and living a long and healthy life? And then the next steps to take action. So in Cell magazine, when this is first published, and already this is changing, but this is the way the experts have been talking about aging. Now, keep in mind the old and new model I just referenced. So the preference to this study, which is fairly extensive, is to say that aging is characterized by a progressive loss of physiological integrity, leading to impaired function and increased vulnerability to death. This deterioration is the primary risk factor for major human pathologies, including cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disorders, and neurodegenerative diseases. So you can see, referencing the old model, that kind of references aging is downhill because it's ridden by disease. But then they looked at the commonalities between those, and in a way, what I've been doing and many other people, where billions of dollars have been raised with venture capital to look at even the promise of doing something different, and in a way, kind of reverse engineering these factors and saying, even though there's a negative to it, what would be the positive if we can understand clearly these biological markers? So the idea is, and this is not a class to go into deep, basically analysis of all of this and teaching, but I'm just giving you an overview of this. So in evaluation and treatment, one of the things is called telomeres, looking at these genetic streams that are like the end caps of the DNA. They can be analyzed, and it's found that when someone's well and healthy, their telomere length is longer. I know in my experience of long-term meditators, the telomeres tend to be longer, for example. But they are a reflection of the vitality of the system. Another is mitochondria, the little switch engines in the body. And sometimes they don't show signs of depletion until about 70 to 80% of diminishment, and then they show up. So they're important to notice in terms of literally the energy that we have to live our lives. Nutrient sensing is indirect. It's the idea, if you've ever heard of indirect or fasting over a certain amount of time, a lot of this is driven by the biochemical sensors that say that how we look at absorption of nutrients and when we take them in and so on and so forth is important. Genomic stability means that how stable are the genes? If someone is experiencing an assault from the outside or internally, that affects genomic stability, how the genes are expressed. Another one that I find quite fascinating is called cellular senescence, which means They're called zombie cells. Some cells um, are reluctant to leave once they have done their job. And that means that results in something like decreased lymphatic exchange, sluggishness, accelerated aging. And I remember my mentor, Dr. Upledger, talking about apoptosis and cells electing whether to exit the body when they're needed or not. And Dr. Upledger was decades ahead of actually really sensing this and looking at the pieces. I remember having several conversations with him about that. Stem cell exhaustion, the very stem cells inside our body in the bone marrow, that shows at the very end point of a metabolic processes that there's simply not enough reserve. And altered intracellular communication. This is key in terms of Alzheimer's and dementia, consistent with memory and cognitive decline. So those are all pieces of the puzzle. And there's now, I think, 12 or 15 hallmarks of aging. There was originally 9. So I'm just hitting some of the key ones to give you a flavor of that. Now, the hallmarks of aging, I think I talked about this a little before. Giving an overview of this, imagine if you could research the key components on a very cellular and genetic level, which caused or accelerated the aging process. You know, aging has been characterized a lot of times of acceleration of inflammation and other factors. And so, as I said before, further imagine what would happen if you could reverse engineer the aging process. And in a way, what I call my curriculum is reversal of the aging process. This is coming along even in the last decade to add fuel to the fire in terms of that conversation, so to speak. Now, often what I talk about in terms of these hallmarks of aging is what I call the diseases of aging, which could be, not always, but could be precursors to even memory problems, such as Alzheimer's dementia, such as diabetes. 100 million Americans are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Cardiac disease, cancer, osteoporosis, joint stiffness, digestive problems, arthritis, autoimmune disorders, and Alzheimer's and dementia. And a lot of these are inflammatory in nature. So kind of when you look at the hallmarks of aging, these are these neurodegenerative and metabolic diseases that they're touching on. And they're looking at the commonality of factors which may fuel these particular dysfunctions. All right. Now, um, again, kind of a statement to wrap this section up is to say by investigating these hallmarks of aging, many of these diseases of aging may be able to be minimized, leading to a higher quality of life and enhanced longevity as we age. And the theory is that if we can do this, even if someone ages into their 70s, 80s, and 90s, that they live a long and healthy life. Maybe the last few months there's more challenges, but it's compacted at the end point very, very efficiently. So that's a different way completely. When you look at people in the blue zones that have lived well and healthy, the centenarians, they're kind of reflecting of that. They have some natural biological processes that show that. So, and then here's another factor, which is emerging research on resources, especially in the area of memory and cognitive decline. This new area of biomarker testing that I've been studying quite a bit is giving us even more advanced notice to take action. There is new biomarker testing. It's a blood test, and before it was C-spine or PET scans, which are fairly invasive and costly, and these new blood biomarker testings that are pretty easily established. And I know in my Alzheimer's World Summit, I'll mention at the very end, has interviewed some of the key developers of this area. But there are 3 key tests which reflect this. One is called p-tau 217, which identifies a downstream component of amyloid plaque. It's a specific biomarker. And now it's as if you could take a blood test, and just like your A1C level may be high when you get a blood test, you can tell in these tests whether the markers are normal, low, medium, or high, and begin to look at, and we're involved in some research studies right now to say, well, as we look at patients and they get tested, can we do interventions like craniosacral therapy and see, can we downregulate and see a difference in these numbers, just like you would with a doctor to say, hey, my A1C level or my triglycerides are high. What can I do to change it? Are we going in the right direction? And then a companion test to this is called neurofilament light, which shows whether there's ongoing metabolic damage. And some of our cranial techniques, including ones that address vascular disease, can address this as well. And another one, which relates to our work in the glymphatic system, where we have another course, it's called GFAP, or gliofibrillary acidic protein, which shows in this lymphatic system where there's a collection of 100 billion astrocytes or glial cells and 100 billion neurons and 400 miles of vascular supply, whether we can address that as well. We have some specific techniques. Fortunately, in our cranial rhythm, it was nice just to find that coincidentally that directly address these as well. So the idea is if you have p-tau 217, that's one thing. If you have all three, that's definitely a red flag, and you could have one or two of the others. But p-tau is the key one, which is about 95% effective. So this is like something in the last year. This is changing the way the industry will look at Alzheimer's dementia. So the advantages of these tests, they can supplant these more expensive tests, as I mentioned. They can be used on a regular basis, like every 6 months or a year, to monitor the existence of amyloid plaque and see if it can be reduced or its precursors. Allows you to take action to change the trajectory of Alzheimer's dementia as if it's preventative. So we can start much earlier. And if people know there's hope, maybe they won't be as resistant to taking a test because it's not a death sentence. It's a way to give us advance notice of something that may be able to be changed. And so this allows us as craniosacral therapists to apply the full range of manual therapy techniques from individual treatments to our many intensive programs where we work in more intensive clinical settings around the country around the year. So what we're doing is we're developing an approach, partnering with companies that have pioneered this analysis and applying objective and subjective measures to approach our treatments for cognitive and memory issues. So now we have a program to provide testing if desired, conduct CST treatments over time, and then reassess in 6 to 12 months to see if the numbers have changed. So again, this is very exciting, just a very new world. This is something I've been looking for the last 10 or 15 years, and lo and behold, the science has begun to provide it. So that's not the end of the story, because we're also developing international partnerships to integrate this program with our worldwide CST affiliates as well. And over and above that, artificial intelligence. I know that with some of our speakers at the Alzheimer's World Summit, and of course, we know a lot of discussion about artificial intelligence. Is it good? Is it not so good? Whatever. But one very positive aspect of AI is that it can look at massive data sets of data and analyze them. And I know I spoke with one of our speakers who said that we can look at somebody like a 37-year-old and look at a cohort of people in that set and see maybe if there's advanced shrinkage of the hippocampus, which is one of the leaders in symptoms of Alzheimer's, and advise somebody even a decade or two before that they can do something to change that condition. And so AI is a way to really analyze data. And that's becoming, like it or not, that's becoming part of the way we're looking at data and how we can support things in a more complete way. And of course, craniosacral therapy, as part of that, this is a manual therapy approach that complements and enhances all these approaches to memory challenge. And of course, I'm sure as you're familiar with my mentor, Dr. John Upledger, really discovered and documented the existence of a craniosacral system that conducts cerebral spinal fluid in the head and down the spine to the sacrum. Hence the name cranial for the head and sacrum for the sacrum and the spinal column in between. Now, basically why CST I think is so popular and so compelling is it's a gentle, hands-on, non-invasive manual therapy, and it allows us to connect deeply with the central nervous system and the flow of cerebral spinal fluid. So in a way, what we're doing is terming cerebral craniosacral therapy is the missing piece in addressing Alzheimer's and dementia. And with one of our faculties at Upledger, a lady named Gail Wetzler, who's just magnificent in her analysis of scientific research and manual therapy, is doing some fundamental work explaining how we can palpate from the surface of the skin all the way down to the neuron of a cell. How profound that is to be able to change the structural relationship. And so by training practitioners in this very subtle and refined technique, we have the opportunity to address the system in ways that haven't been accessed before. Um, why is this important? Here's a little animation of the lateral ventricles and cerebrospinal fluid filling, surrounding here. If you can see my little arrow, the cerebellum and the meningeal system. This has been the focus uh, with Upledger for many, many decades. But with the advent and the discovery of the lymphatic system, we're saying that we can not only deal with the periphery of the system, but down to every nook and cranny of the brain, what's called the perivascular space, and change things. Part of the treatment for Alzheimer's dementia, to give you an idea, is that a lot of people, and nothing wrong, talk about diet and exercise, and even medications that are either natural or pharmaceutical. However, if those interventions do not reach into these micro perivascular spaces, if there's a structural inhibition, then they can't get to the site where they're needed to help. So this is very complementary in terms of us being able to complement other approaches. And that's something we're very actively speaking about in a very multidisciplinary approach. And even as a more familiar kind of update with this, Dale Bredesen, that I've spoken to just the other day, we're looking at really the integration of craniosacral therapy and functional medicine. Doctors who understand that alternative therapies are a way to complement, and in our certified longevity specialist training, we're training people who understand the core of craniosacral into the specialties of what we're doing as well. So, craniosacral therapy has an integrative and supportive function. It helps to enhance the effectiveness of almost all the approaches I'll discuss in the next few slides, which include diet, sleep, metallic toxins, Lyme and mold disease, concussion and external head trauma, and even holistic dentistry. All those are very complementary modalities to what we're doing. So, again, as I mentioned, craniosacral therapy helps to enhance tradition and gut health, as well as inflammatory processes in the brain and body. So, what's exciting is this can become a first-line, low-impact approach to offset and avoid more extreme pharmaceutical and high-impact interventions. James Muskow, who's a speaker that coordinated doctor talks that I spoke with, really talks about changing the way we look at the hierarchy and paradigm of treatment, because he's saying really that you want to look first at changing the cultural understanding that I've talked about, then create community, then create even more community support so people can be encouraged and more compliant when they're making life changes. Then look at coaching to help people, and then look at actually the way he puts it, the structural integration, the structural impact, and change that. And then he thinks above and beyond that, functional medicine can start with natural cures and ways of approaching, then pharmaceuticals as needed, and then what he puts finally is high force interventions. A lot of people I speak with are at the pharmaceutical and high force intervention, but he's saying, let's rethink that and see if we can help a broad swath of the population, many, many, many more people. All right, just a couple of more slides here. Hope I'm doing well on time. Um, so um, basically what we're involved in right now is even doing additional research on the integration of manual therapy and these functional medicine approaches. This is very exciting. This has been a decades-long approach in terms of really looking at all the things that we can do to help. Slide here. So stay tuned for that as we're doing even more research in this area. So, sorry, oh, here we go. Somehow some other slides crept in here again. Okay. Now, in terms of working with the senior community, which by the way, never call them seniors because I hate that term, but people 55 or plus, all right? The most common complaints or symptoms as we age are not just cognition and memory, but our cranial techniques and advanced techniques can also look at bone challenges, osteopenia and osteoporosis, vision, hearing and balance, immune system challenges, thoracic, including the heart and the lungs, digestive, of course, which is a big one, and cognition and memory. So all those in terms of markers of these hallmarks of aging that occur, what could it be if we could change the trajectory, even not just of cognition and memory, but all of these factors as well. So I just wanted to mention that to sum up that we're dealing with a whole range of what we call the diseases of aging, but things that are common complaints. What could it be if we support the mitochondria and the telomeres and nutrient sensing and all these other factors so that the cells could turn over and remain fresh? These are just some of the things that we're touching on right now as we're really refining our approach. So, resources, just some things you might be interested in. This year, I am hosting my fifth Alzheimer's World Summit. It's October 8th through 12th, and Upledger Institute will send all of you an invitation to join in a couple of weeks when we're in an enrollment period from September 29th to October 7th. And it's a 5-day presentation of 30 plus worldwide experts uh, in dementia and Alzheimer's dementia. I have had some excellent interviews, I think, with people that are experts in hormonal changes, postmenopausal. Dale Bredesen, of course, who's really pioneered a multifactorial approach to looking at Alzheimer's. Looking at bone health with a fellow named the Bone Coach, ways that we can strengthen our bone health in various ways. Um, Looking at Lyme disease and mold and seeing how that might be a precursor to memory problems and why it's important to have specificity in that area. A number of our other Upledger instructors that I've interviewed, including Dale Wetzler that I mentioned, including Rebecca Ridge, who's really developed a course on trauma and PTSD, Liz Brinson, who's actually one of our teachers of the lymphatic course, and a number of other people. It's just a very rich collection, and I'm very excited about having these speakers to share with. It's really always a learning experience for me. So when you get an invitation, this is a free pass, although you can pay $67 for an all lifetime pass for your library. Um, but it's an excellent opportunity. We've now, over the last 5 years, interviewed over 120 experts in the area of Alzheimer's dementia, people from functional medicine, research, caregiving, of course, which is an area we've been focused on supporting caregivers as well, and a number of other parameters also. Um, Now, if any of you haven't had any craniosacral experience, occasionally, and I do this for caregivers as well, is I've created a 2-day virtual layperson class. It's called CranioSacral Therapy for Longevity, Applications for Alzheimer's Dementia, or CSLAD. And I have the link here, which may not show on the screen, but that's a 2-day course you can register for. And the next one is November 15th and 16th. It's a great introduction to craniosacral therapy to learn some of the basics. And it's really not just for memory problems, it's really for everything, but it gives you an idea of the basis and finding points for our study. And as Jackie will mention in a few minutes, the basis is craniosacral therapy 1 and moving on, but this is a great introduction, and especially for lay people as well that want to support their loved ones. Now, for the following things, with my general email, which is called supportandpreventingalzheimers.com. If you're interested in any of the following, this biomarker testing that I mentioned, what you should do is go to this email, and I can do a little 30-minute consult with you to see if this is something that would be useful for you. And again, we're training certified longevity specialists, those who are already practicing craniosacral therapy, and people who would like to find even a whole nother career path in really specializing in working with the aging population. And also around the country, we've created what's called these 3-day mini intensive programs where we can have a collection of therapists who are more advanced work on one person for 2 hours, 3 days in a row. It's really based on the template that the Upledger Institute has had at their clinic in Florida. But it's very powerful because a lot of people have accumulated stresses and strains over life, and they need a little bit more attention to kind of get a jump start to clear all those toxins out of their brain, if that makes sense. Okay, I think we're ready for questions and answers.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay,
Help
good,
me with
Jackie.
that.
Thank you.
And we've had 2 chats come in, but please, I'm sure there's more comments and questions out there. Elizabeth asked, said thank you for this, about how early, 50s, 60s, can one begin to test? You may answer as I'm writing, of course.
All right. You can test as early as you want. What we're finding, it's like you go to the doctor and you're in your 30s, you can get a blood test, right? The advantage to that, which is new as a game changer, is that now you can look at the test and say, well, I'm pretty normal. And then get tested occasionally, like you do blood work, to say, hey, how am I doing? Maybe I've had more stresses in life or something happened. But you can continually monitoring. And of course, it makes sense that if we can catch things earlier, any doctor will tell you that, there's more opportunity to change the trajectory. My mission statement for my company is to significantly reduce the deaths from Alzheimer's worldwide in the next 5 years. What I mean by significantly is maybe 20% of 5 million people that, you know, are diagnosed with Alzheimer's in the US, with the numbers increasing. But how can we get a handle on that? Catching people before they drop off the cliff, so to speak. So the short answer is, yeah, as early as you want. If you think your family has the APOE4 gene, which is one of the Alzheimer's genes, it's not the end of the world, but it means that if you're curious, then, oh, how am I doing? Am I manifesting? And as I spoke with someone today about, the whole idea of epigenetics is you can turn off the genes that are expressing a dysfunction and allow them not to turn on again. So if you catch it early, it doesn't mean that if already you're on the spectrum, we can't do something, but the earliest possible. So that's an excellent question. That's one way to utilize this as a resource.
All right. And Daniel has commented, this presentation has been awesome for me. I am a colon hydrotherapist and massage therapist. I focus my massage services on craniosacral therapy, as I believe in the importance of central nervous system nourishment along with gut healing. It is very exciting to see the advancement on research and prevention of AD with the involvement of craniosacral therapy. Thank you for the info. And Tricia, hi, Michael.
Oh,
Long
and just
time
let
no
me
see.
comment on that for just a
Okay.
moment, because we had a fascinating interview with someone today about Lyme and mold. Gut health is key, and the microbiome of the gut. Craniosacral encourages fluid flow and encourages, and this is part of the lymphatic course that we have as well, that basically you can encourage and promote gut health. And you know, it's about an 80-20, about 80% of the gut talks to the brain, and the brain is 20 to 80, 20% back to the gut. So if you can encourage that and really, really encourage gut health, this is a key player in all of these dysfunctions as well. So yeah, thanks for doing what you're doing there. Sorry, Donna, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. Tricia, hi, Michael. Long time no see. Does your 2-day November class get listed on our iahp.com websites?
It should be there. I think Jackie
Yes.
will mention in a minute, so it should be there. Yes.
I meant, what I meant is, does it, not that it's listed, but it shows that we took it. It's connected to the Upledger Institute, Michael?
All right. Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
I'll look that up for you, but I believe the answer is yes.
yes.
All right. I'll finish up with the chats. We have several more. Meryl, thank you for this way of hope. You seem to be answering my questions as you continued to talk. And I don't know this name. Greetings, Mr. Morgan, and thank you for being here with us. In your experience working in the field of dementia and Alzheimer's disease, do you find that environmental factors, lifestyle, dietary habits, or genetic predisposition play a greater role in the doubling of diagnosis since 1990? Trans fats and bioengineered ingredients could accelerate cell degeneration and premature cognitive decline.
Yeah, I think it's a factor. There's a couple things. One is that we're more acute in analyzing and looking at things. That's number one. Number two is we have an aging population that are aging longer and living longer. So that skews the factors as well, right? And three, yeah, just stress in the environment. If anyone's noticed, sometimes the environment can be stressful. That's a factor as well. I did an interview with someone about a meditation technique the other day, and he's saying, yeah, if we can allow the system to downstep and become more parasympathetic, then every event that comes up, it's called allostatic balance, will not trigger the system, and therefore we will accumulate stress less frequently. So there's a whole holistic, Dale Bredesen with the Recode protocol that I've been working with as practitioners more and more. They're all speaking about this, how more and more it's a holistic approach where a number of things complement each other. So yeah, I hope that answers that. But I would say yes, and there's a number of factors that are contributing to that.
All right, and Meryl is asking, how do we find ways to have this testing done if it is not offered at our health plans?
Go to support@preventingalzheimers.com, have a little consult with me, and we'll find a way to get you hooked up with this. Okay.
All right. And Shani, this has been very informative. Thank you. Elizabeth, thank you. Very helpful. And Hope affirming. And Jennifer says, I have completed CranioSacral Therapy 1 through Upledger and will be continuing the courses to become a craniosacral therapist. How far into craniosacral practice and training would you say I can speak to this for my clients and use this in my own practice?
Well, thank you, Jennifer. You can start right away. There's some basic cranial techniques that I even mentioned in the 2-day, like the still point and cranial pumping, that you can apply immediately. As you move through the curriculum, and again, there's a third level of craniosacral called somato-emotional release, SCR1. That's a prerequisite for taking my advanced training and/or a class called Touching the Glial or Touching the Brain. And that's the glial course. And that, after cranial 2, you can take that. So there's a couple of pathways to do this. But the idea in the curriculum is that we're training as many people as possible, even caregivers, to learn the basics. But because we have learned so much and the science is very rapidly changing, that now what we can do in our 4-day advanced training called CSLRIP, is that we can take the basic training and dive even more deeply and pass on everything we've learned for how to deal with the biomarker testing, how to apply it specifically, and use even more specific and refined techniques, as some people call it. It's like called precision brain medicine, to fine tune even more, because there's so many factors that can lead to cognitive function that you need to kind of set and look at the whole range of factors. And we train our advanced therapists to do just that.
All right. And we have Meryl and Allison saying thank you and very helpful. And I don't at the moment see any additional chats coming in. So Jackie, why don't you jump in and speak on behalf of the Upledger Institute?
I'm glad to. First of all, thank you, Michael. It was another wonderful presentation. And Donnell, of course, thank you for always hosting Upledger. I just want to thank the entire listening group because you had great questions and comments and clearly were enthused and highly interested in Michael's presentation this evening, which is always heartwarming for us. You'll be receiving an email from not only Donnell and Biotone and EduTalk, but you will be receiving an email from Upledger in the next few days. We'll try and include Michael's information on the Alzheimer's World Summit and make sure our link for that is working. And you'll also see a special offer coming your way. As Michael mentioned earlier, the foundation for his longevity courses is our CranioSacral Therapy 1 class. And we do have a special offer for you this evening for registration discounts on that class if you're interested in starting your journey to learn more about longevity and craniosacral therapy. So that's all I have. Trisha, I put a note in your chat. Hopefully that explains a few things. And again, thank you everyone. And you'll be hearing from us soon.
Okay.
That's it.
Trisha is asking, and I'm not sure if this is what you were addressing, Jackie. What are the November dates again, Michael?
Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
November 15th and 16th for CSLAD.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Which is the class that's for caregivers, therapists, family members. And it's virtual.
Right.
Wonderful. Karen is asking, will we be getting the recording? And yes, all EduTalks for over the last 5 years are recorded and can be found on biotone.com under the EduTalk tab in the archive library. Tomorrow, we will be sending out, as we do after every EduTalk, a follow-up email. It will include Michael's recording, tonight's recording. It will include a copy of the PowerPoint from tonight, as well as the contact information for Upledger Institute so that you can learn more about the training. Let's see, additionally, Karen said, I missed the first part, all about the testing, super interested in testing and what is really working for dementia prevention, diagnosis, and care. Massage therapists since 1987, interested in learning best practices in elder care body work. Haven't had Upledger course yet. Both moms died with dementia. Sleep learning curve as caregivers. My husband has one, is it APOE4 gene?
Yeah.
I have bad vascular gene. We both feel our memories are worsening, age 68, but neurologist says this is normal.
Which is not. I just defer. So yeah, talk to me. Email me at that support@preventingalzheimers.com and let's chat.
All right. Thank you, Karen. What I would like to again mention is Michael is a past presenter. He did a talk in June 2024, and it was craniosacral approaches for Alzheimer's and dementia. Those of you that are new to joining us with EduTalks, we also have EduTalk Diabetes Series. And in August, we had Jennifer Pressimone present on diabetes type 3 and dementia. And that is also in the archive library. That's not the exact title. That's a shortened version of it. But you will find it in the EduTalk archive library on biotone.com. Upledger Institute has been a great partner throughout EduTalks, and there are numerous presenters and topics of craniosacral therapy also in the archive library. So I really encourage you to visit that. There will be a link in the email follow-up tomorrow to get you right there, as well as an RSVP link for upcoming EduTalks. And speaking of that, September 16th, the EduTalk Diabetes Series, Linda Lockett-Brown will be presenting on using diabetes technology to control blood sugar, and the RSVP is now open. Additionally, on September 23rd, Eric Purvis will be presenting on the science of massage, and RSVP for that will open tomorrow. And I want to thank you, Michael, for sharing once again such valuable information. It is quite exciting. And I hope to have you back again in 2026 with updates on all of this. That would be really exciting. Jackie, thank you for following up with all that attended tonight's EduTalk with the special offers from Upledger and opportunities there. And thank you everyone for all you do and for joining in our EduTalks. And watch your inbox for the follow-up email. If it is not there by midday, please check your junk or spam folder, or feel free to reach out for me for a copy of the follow-up. And thank you for this. And Karen has used Biotone since 1987. Haven't been aware of these amazing offerings. Thank you again to everyone. Join us again. Spend days in the archive library and learn all you can. Take care, everyone. Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
And safe
Thank you.
drive tonight.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.